28th December, which was a day marked in our memories forever, and not just us, probably the world. It was the day General Rawat lost his life along with 13 others in a chopper crash. You never know it's someone's last day until it is their last day. And he just looked back and he said, "Be awake." And he just walked out. That day woke me up forever. So if I had to say something to my dad, knowing it would be the last thing I say to him, I would probably say, on 8th December 2021, General Rawat, along with 13 other people, lost their lives in the infamous CDS chopper crash. One of them was my father. Hi, my name is Aashna Lidder. I'm the daughter of Brigadier LS Leader, and today I'm here to share lessons, stories, experiences I've had with him and I've learned from him on his behalf. To narrate the story of my parents, I think they had the most filmy, the most movie-like story there could be. My mom met my dad when she was 17, and my dad was right out of the National Defense Academy. He was newly commissioned. They met at a ball, which makes it more movie-like. And my mom, as she claims, fell head over heels with him the day she met him. So after 6 years of dating, my parents finally got married. And they had me after 8 years. So I was born very late to my parents. And that made me, I think, all the more pampered as a child, and that made them all the more attached to me. So we spent 3 years in Kazakhstan, where my dad was the defense attaché representing India in Kazakhstan. And I think those 3 years are where I felt and got the closest to both my parents, and especially my dad. You know, as an army kid, there's always very limited time you spend with your fathers, because so more often than not, they're out of the house, they're serving the nation, they're out in the border, and you're usually staying with your mom in separated family accommodations, or even if they're posted in Delhi, they're busy with work, and there's very limited time you get with them. So in a country like Kazakhstan, where the language was a barrier, there wasn't an army environment, you were completely stranded, right? And even though eventually we fell in love with the country, we also fell more and more in love with the concept of family time. And that's what made me, that's the time where I got the closest to my parents. In Kazakhstan, I was in the American school, which was the Quality Schools International. And for a child who was in 4th grade, 5th grade, it's very hard to adjust to a new environment, let alone a foreign environment. So to suddenly face issues which were beyond your tiffin box and your swimming class, to face issues like racism, to face issues like, to know the concept of bullying, to make friends in an environment where languages weren't the same, flags weren't the same, values aren't the same. It teaches you a lot, but it's also a struggle initially. And that's when I actually grew so close to my dad in terms of I understood how emotionally intelligent he was. So eventually when things started getting good in the American school, when I, my first few milestones of achieving something on my own, one of the milestones was when I got to be, and it's so small in hindsight, but that time it was the biggest thing to me. I told him, okay, listen, I've become the MC of the winter concert. And to a 40-plus-year-old man, I think this was the least of his concerns and the least of an achievement. But my 6'3" father held my hand and we both are jumping. And I think that's something that's so vivid in my head, and it became like our thing. We would just like jump with excitement at every small thing I would mention, or like every small achievement I would have. My dad, as I grew up, I realized that every second person thought he was their best friend. And that was one quality he had, and that's one thing I so wish to learn from him, is the quality of making everyone feel like they are your best friend and making everyone feel so special about themselves. And it leaves them feeling so loved and so good. So my dad had this saying that, in life, you're never going to be known by who you are to your seniors or who you are to your juniors. Because to your seniors, you're always nice, and to your juniors, you're always mean. It's how your peers talk about you that actually tell you your own strength and your own character. Your peers are your biggest competitors. And the day your biggest competitors praise you, you know you've won. After that, he came to Delhi for the National Defence College, and after he did NEC, he was picked by General Rawat to become the defence advisor to General Rawat. Once he went to work with General Rawat, he was his happiest self. He was so busy, and that is also one more quality of my father, which I hope to inherit someday, is enjoy your work so much that you love being busy. So he was busy, but he loved it. Like, we could not complain to him because he would not hear it. He loved his work, he loved what he was doing, and it was one of his first times where he was in a position to do so much for others. And there are so many people in this world who are in a position to do so much for others, but such few people who actually do so much for others. And that was the man who Papa was. He, in whatever position he was, wanted to help someone or the other out, never said no for an answer. During COVID, Papa was in an office where he could really get people to hospitals and give them a lot of oxygen cylinders, and everyone was in a situation of need. So I remember my dad he had 2 phones, and both of them were ringing every day, constantly asking for cylinders, hospital beds, PPE kits, anything. And my dad would physically go and visit strangers in a PPE suit just to make sure they're okay, they've gotten their cylinder, they've gotten the help they needed. And the month after that, when COVID became a little better, the situation calmed down, there would be bouquets, cakes, chocolates, cupcakes, flowers in our house a lot of the time because of the blessings he earned. And I remember people would write notes saying, "Thank you, Brigadier Leader, you saved my husband. Thank you, you saved our life." And he felt so good, and he was so unboastful about it, but it was like a matter of pride for me. And because he would go a lot around the country with General Rawat as well as abroad, I remember my friends would keep sending me like these Instagram posts where my dad was, in a picture, or a news channel or a newspaper. And to him, it was just, he didn't think of it. And to me, he was like a mini celebrity at home. And that's when I just developed so much respect for my father. And I started looking up to him in so many aspects. To him, it didn't matter. To him, I think one more lesson I learned from him was that keep working with a straight goal and don't look around. Don't hear noises, even if they are compliments, because anything can digress you, and don't get digressed. You never know it's someone's last day until it is their last day. And with the way Dad left us, it was so unprecedented that now that I think about it, the months before that, that is November and the beginning days of December, I remember all my lasts with him. And little did I know they were all my lasts. Then on 5th December, I had my math board, and I came back home from my center, and I would call my dad first thing after an exam. And it's not like he knew a lot about my syllabus or my subject or my tuitions. My mom knew so much more, but I would call him. And I said, "Papa, the paper has gone so badly." And I was crying and I was angry and I was like, how could I do this? And I was livid, you know how you are after your 12th board exam if it goes horribly wrong. And I came home and my parents weren't home. And so I had these 2-3 hours to sleep. And instead of sleeping, I just kept crying. And I come from a family where my mom has made me a very religious person. So I pray, and my nani has taught me prayers, and I know, I believe in God, and I strongly do. And I remember just looking at the mandir in my parents' room, and I don't know, it's so frivolous now, and within 1 hour it changed. But that moment, for some reason, I was like, I'm not going to pray again. And 3 days later, I lost my father, which was the world crashing down on me. And to a 16-year-old self, now that I look back, it's highly stupid of me to even put this on myself. But to a 16-year-old self, the first thought that came was, is this because 3 days back I said I'm not going to pray? Is this a punishment? Then came the day of 8th December, which was a day marked in our memories forever. And not just us, probably the world. It was the day General Rawat lost his life along with 13 others in a chopper crash. And my father was one of them. And never did I think this could happen to us. I remember I was again, giving one of my boards. And this one actually went really well. And I texted my father right after I gave my board. And I was going to call him. And I remembered he told me he was going for a chopper ride and he'll be back in the evening. And so I said, okay, I'll call him when he's back. He must be in the chopper by now. And I came home, and I remember it was 12:20. And my mom got a call from one of my dad's best friends. And he said, ma'am, Anil uncle said, ma'am, aapne TV dekha? And my mom said, nahi, kya ho gaya Anil? And he just said, nothing to worry. It's not a good landing. The chopper's not landed well. And my mom she was perfectly calm about it, because she just told me, beta, this is so common in the army. There have been so many bad landings. And then we switched on the TV. And as we kept watching, I came to a realization that this is not just a bad landing. This is a chopper crash. And never did I think that death was going to be the outcome of that, even after watching the news and hearing everything, and even after getting to know that first we got to know Mrs. Rawat was no more, then we got to know General Rawat was no more. And even after hearing all of that, I just knew my dad was going to come back home. And I remember our house just kept filling up with people, and they kept coming, and it was just filled, and I was wondering, why is everyone here? It's not like anything bad is going to happen. Or maybe they're here to like receive Papa or something. Maybe he's broken a bone or two. Or then we heard about the burn marks. Again, I was like, no, it's okay. There's still life. And now that I look back, and now that we've accepted death and we've dealt with grief, I'm actually grateful that death was the outcome, because he didn't have to suffer. And when there's a peaceful death, it's much better than suffering. And maybe those were where the blessings went into, that he didn't have to suffer at all, and the 13 people didn't have to. I remember this so vividly now. And it's just so ironic as to what he said and what impact it had on us and me. I was sleeping, and again, I had a board in the morning, and he was leaving early. So he woke me up, and my dad used to always wake me up. And he woke me up and he said, beta, wake up, you have a board. What time did you sleep? This, that. And I would usually go out to drop my dad till the car. And this time I didn't. And because I was very sleepy, I had studied till late, and I was just sleeping. I said, Papa, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, please let me sleep. And he just looked back and he said, Aashna, be awake. And as he was leaving, I got up, and I just remember my dad in his ceremonial uniform, prim and proper, newest uniform, newest shoes, was just walking out my room's door. And he just looked back and he said, be awake. And he just walked out. And I think that has had such an impact on me now, because that day woke me up forever. Like, it made me alert. I grew up overnight. It made me mature in many ways. It made us deal with grief, with loss, with things we never thought we would deal with so early on, and with a man as good as him. The incident happened at 12:20, and almost every time I look at the clock and somehow coincidentally it's 12:20, it leaves me a bit wheezy. Like, I get a very sinking feeling. One more lesson I learned from my father was how to teach people through actions. And I know this sounds very cliched, but being 50 years of age, it's very easy to give a lot of gyan, and people love it. So if I had to say something to my dad, knowing it would be the last thing I say to him, I would probably say with a huge smile on my face that, Papa, I hope me and Mom together be the team that brings back to you and your name what you brought to us. And I hope we make you as proud as you make us every day, and you have made us in the past 17 years for me, 25 for my mom. And I just, I wouldn't want to say that I hope you're happy watching us, and I hope you're blessing us, and I hope you know we love you. Because I think my dad very well knew that he was our world. And that's one thing me and my mom are so grateful for. And I would say this to him, that I know you know we love you the most. And I know you know that you are our life and world. And I just hope you give us the power to make it through without you, because we never thought we'd have to. And to make you as happy and proud as you made us. And you continue to make us every day.